From Russell Westbrook to the Chicago Cubs, there's literally no transition there. But JR, it could be the year of the Cubbies. And now we've said that when Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood were leading the rotation.
Kerry Wood.
We've said that in the 60s and 70s and 50s and 40s and 30s and 20s and 10s.
I was saying it back in the 20s.
Back in the 10s. People forget about the Roaring 10s.
Yeah. No,
Before the Roaring 20s, you had the Roaring 10s.
It was simpler times.
It's been a long time. Harry Carey was born and died since the Cubs last won a World Series. The Titanic set sail, sank, and was rediscovered since the Cubs last won a World Series. I feel so bad for this team. And although they were off to a ridiculous start, one of the greatest starts in MLB history, they've actually slowed down a bit. 5-5, actually 4-6 in the last 10 games. However, you look at that lineup.
Who swept them in 4 games?
The New York Metropolitans. And we'll get to that in just a second. But, yeah, I guess maybe the Mets are the Cubbies' kryptonite. I could be saying that because I'm a Mets fan. But so far, when they match up, the Cubs can't beat them. And some teams have that advantage. I don't know what it is. We do have good pitching. However, the Cubbies, from top to bottom, on top of having Joe Maddon, one of the best managers in the league, also seems like a guy you'd want to play for, Jake Arrieta, Kyle Hendricks. These guys are making their own luck according to 538, and their all-star lineup, and I say that because their entirety of their infield. Can we get the picture we have here? It's the Cubs All-Stars 2. Yeah! NL starting lineup for the All-Star game. Crying Jordan, Cubby, 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 Crying Jordan, Cubby.
Yes.
It includes Dexter Fowler, Addison Russell, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, all those guys. So actually, in terms of the infield, it's we can go to graphic number 4, so we can actually read off the names of the players that will be starting because they're not just named after Crying Jordan. Rizzo, Zobrist, Addison Russell, should have been Corey Seager, Chris Bryant were elected to start next Tuesday's game in San Diego for the National League, becoming just the second foursome to accomplish this feat and first since the 1963 St. Louis Cardinals, who even had their catcher on that list, and outfielder Stan Musial. They had 6 guys starting the All-Star game in 1963. The late, great Stan Musial.
So I read this 538 article about this. And yeah, there's the stat obsession in baseball I appreciate because it means something. I mean, the shift it's not even new anymore. But, like, it's something that is implemented and it's worked. It makes sense, right? And you pitch to guys a certain way. It's not like there's not many guesses anymore, right? You have amazing pitchers who have amazing velocity and amazing accuracy. So you know what they're going to do in general, unless someone finds a way around it, which they will. So anyway, there's things. The batting average on balls in play was one of the stats that 538 talked about because that's one of the great stats that the Cubs have.
It's one of the few batting average on balls in play, or BABIP, as they call it nowadays, as the youngins call it, JR, is actually one of the few super advanced analytics that I think have an effect.
And the thing is, they combine it with things with the normal stats that people always think about, like ERA and all that stuff, your strikeout to walk ratio, all those things. So once you put all that together, it's awesome, right? The frustrating part is, I hear you, but it's not the end-all, be-all. So I just want to quote this one part. I know we don't have a graphic, so just bear with me. If the Cubs finish the year with their current BABIP, it's the lowest relative to average since World War II. Why do we even come up with stats like that? They got this based off of each pitcher's effect on the exit velocities and launch angles that he allows by comparing his rates to the same hitter's numbers against other pitchers. Then we calculated what would happen if we replaced each team's actual pitchers with a staff full of generic arms that allowed league average exit velocities and launch angles. Okay, so all that gets you all these extra stats because it's 2016 and we're amazing. So why'd you compare it back to the best average since World War II? Was it back in the 1940s when they were getting the BABIP correctly? No, because there's something else that happens in baseball. They still they still play the game, right? So they still play the game. So why are we worried about these extra stats and the exit velocity and the angle of that pitch? You know what? The guy still has to swing. He still has to not swing. He still has to take a pitch. There's still guys who have injuries. There's still guys who have frustrations. There's guys who have bad days. So all those factors still come into effect. Let's stop worrying and acting like it's just that. So the whole guarantee of are the Cubs going to win all this year because of their BABIP and because of all these extra stats that we're adding in and their kind of shift?
It's only one number. It's only one number.
I'm sorry. It's just a little frustrating when we throw all of our eggs in this one kind of basket.
I understand your frustration because I would look at one number that defined the Royals winning the World Series last year and getting to the World Series when nobody thought they were going to 2 years ago. Strikeout rate. They don't strike out. It's not a super fancy number. How do you find that number? Take all the plate appearances that they had that season, take the number of times they struck out, divide them. All right, so in terms of the Cubbies, though, are they going to let their fans down? I think this is the year of the Cubs. Now, I've said that before about other teams, and they've lost in tragic fashion, so you don't want me saying that this is
But
the
those years were the year of the Cubs. Meaning, like, they got deep, they went deep in the
look
playoffs,
at this,
they looked good.
You look at this team, and there's no excuse. They have the best roster in the National League. They do.
Yeah.
They should be getting, and last year they were just younger. But this is a different Cubs monster you're talking about. Jake Arrieta is a bona fide star. They have both pitching and they have hitting. They have a bullpen. They can field. So all the numbers aside, their historic start, which was like the greatest start in MLB since like the Murderers Row Yankees, and not the one that people think was the 1999 Yankees. I'm talking about like the 1909 Yankees. You look at the team from top to bottom, and you go, that's a World Series winning team. Or it should be. And I'm rooting for them. I'm a Mets fan. The Mets play them. Of course, I'll be rooting for my team. But I think the world would love to see the Cubbies win a World Series.
They'd be okay with it. I mean, just like when the Red Sox finally got over the hump.
Yeah,
but then right after the Red Sox finally got over the hump, and they were like the perennial automatic almost every year.
No, screw them.
Everyone gets the Red Sox
everyone
suddenly.
Gets one.
Absolutely.
You get one, then all sympathy's out the window.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm bored of the
There
Cubs. They just did it last year.
Absolutely. Like they got theirs, okay, big white, because there's every other team is like, when's my turn? Well, except for the same teams that keep winning.
The important takeaway for this clip is Corey Seager is much better, according to the numbers, than Addison Russell. So he should be starting the All-Star game.
He's a youngster. That's why he's out.
That's the most love I'll give the Dodgers.
Thank you.
All year long.